Human rights issues like Black Lives Matter, Me Too, and Stop Asian Hate are being brought to light through mass media. These issues are an everyday occurrence, but they generally only gain popularity when they're featured in the news, after a hate crime or a death. Why? Because people empathize more rapidly and deeply with real-life stories and experiences. Standalone statistics and colorful Instagram infographics just bounce off the surfaces of people's bodies. These methods of spreading awareness sometimes are helpful, but often they just lead to performative activism, where people passively share this content out of a perceived social responsibility to do so. More often than not, these methods don't resonate with people, so they don't lead to real action. That's why I encourage you to go below the surface and use your stories to reach people's hearts. I tell my stories through poetry, so that I can allow people to gain insight into complex topics like trauma without actually experiencing them. My goal is to help people understand the gravity and urgency of these issues through emotion. If you don't have a story to share, or if you don't feel comfortable sharing yours, you're welcome to share the poem that I'll be reading today, called A Field of Flowers. Now, with this poem, I hope you'll recognize that it's fairly easy to understand, and I don't use overly complicated vocabulary to get my message across. I'm honest and try not to take away from the experience. I also make comparisons to ideas that most people are familiar with. One such idea is the idiom of the birds and the bees, which is commonly used to introduce sex to children. It draws from the fact that birds lay eggs and bees pollinate flowers. In my poem, I'll be focusing on the bee and flower element of the idiom. Content warning, this poem is about sexual violence, so if this is a potentially triggering topic for you, in a moment I'll invite you to mute your device. At the end of my poem, I'll raise my hand like so to indicate when it is safe for you to unmute. At this time, I invite you to mute your device if necessary. Without further ado, this is A Field of Flowers. The birds and the bees, in the flowers and the trees. Harmony, beauty. The perfect analogy, as sex mirrors nature in many ways, as lust can turn into trust, and love into life. But what if the flower says no? What if she tries to close her petals, but the bee shows its stinger like a weapon, threatening to pierce her? The people around her say she's not a victim, rather an attention seeker, a liar, quiet like a wallflower. She should have screamed louder, but how could she, with a stinger pointed at her? They say her silence was an invitation, or that she just wants to ruin his reputation because she now regrets last night's pollination. The first thing they address is her lipstick and short dress, and not how he touched or undressed her. Her body became property, and her clothes a liability. Of course, sexual violence is not confined to intercourse. It's the I'm not comfortable. It's the I never gave permission. The invasion of privacy, no consent, don't talk to me like that. It's violence. A matchstick that can take any form and burn anyone. Yet, though this fire spreads, it does not cause a wildfire, as the flowers that were once wilting find the strength to stand tall again. And he stands with them, and her too, and me too. For a field of flowers is infinitely stronger than a bee. As the oldest form of communication, storytelling has stood the test of time because it uses a universally understood characteristic, emotion. Use your stories to inspire people to join you in your fight. That's how a single flower can become an entire field. Thank you.